Today feels off in LA. Quiet, then loud. One cap number that makes the rest of the league tense up. One speed wrinkle that could flip the playbook in 2 snaps. 2 names up front who might not even make it to training camp. And on defense, one edge decision that basically decides who owns the fourth quarter. And look, if you're here for Chargers news like this, hit the like button, make sure you're subscribed, and drop your take while we're rolling, because I'm telling you right now, this one is going to split the room. Bolt fam, real question. Do you trust the plan? Some off-seasons feel like a breather. This isn't that. This feels like a warning light blinking on the dash. Because the second a playoff team starts talking about opening the vault, every front office in the NFL looks towards SoFi Stadium and thinks, oh, they might be about to get scary. You can hear it in the group chats. You can see it in the way Chargers Nation argues. This isn't about one feel-good signing. This is about leverage, options, and that rare opportunity to push the pedal down during Justin Herbert's prime without torching the future. And the craziest part? Nobody even has to force the door. It's already cracked open. The Chargers are sitting around $80.5 million in cap space going into free agency. That's absurd for a team that just played playoff football. But there's another level here. Call it turbo mode. 3 clean moves, no cuts required, no locker room gut punch. Just numbers doing what numbers do. First, a Herbert restructure. Take some of that money, convert it into bonus, spread the cap hit out. That's roughly another $17 million freed up. Translation? You keep your franchise QB happy, you keep your roster intact, and you give yourself real ammunition to chase pieces that turn third and long into a defensive nightmare. Pressure, response, again. Second, Rashawn Slater. And yeah, this is where the emotion and the math collide. A restructure could open up about $12.5 million. But Slater's coming off a season-ending injury, so you don't just do this like you're clicking a button. You do it carefully. You structure it smart. Still, the message underneath it all is pretty clear. The team sees him as a pillar, not a question mark. Third, Derwin James. He's heading into the final year of his deal, and an extension before he gets to 2027 could save around $12.9 million on the cap right now. And it says something that matters in a building. Our defense has an identity, and the leader stays. Put it together, and you're talking more than $42 million in extra space. That's over $120 million total. A playoff roster, a new offensive mind in Mike McDaniel, and the ability to go shopping for speed, interior line help, and red zone difference makers. That's not just money sitting on a spreadsheet. That's leverage you can feel. Now picture February, most contenders pinching pennies, and the Chargers walking into the market like they decide the price tag. When you control the table, you control the offseason. So I'll toss it to you. Do you use that kind of power on 1 or 2 stars? Or do you spread it across 4 upgrades and build a roster with no soft spots? Because if cap space just turned into a weapon, the next part of this gets even faster. You know that feeling when an offense is almost there, but it's missing the one detail that changes how defenses have to line up? That thing that makes the stadium lean forward before the ball even gets there? Speed isn't just running fast. Speed is threat. Speed is a safety backing up before the snap. It's a corner hesitating for half a second. And half a second in the NFL turns into 6 points. And the fit that's being talked about for the Chargers? It feels like it matches this moment perfectly. But before I even say the name, just sit with the idea for a second. Mike McDaniel doesn't build a pretty offense for the sake of looking pretty. He builds an offense that forces you to pick a poison. Sit on the short game and you give up chunk plays. Protect deep and you get hit underneath with misdirection. Cheat help inside and you get punished outside. It's chess, but at full speed. Now put that with Herbert. Arm talent, timing, confidence. He already attacks tight windows like they're not even tight. Add real field stretching speed, and those windows start looking like open doors. And this is where it gets interesting. Pro Football Focus laid out realistic landing spots for free agents, and they pointed to the Chargers as the best fit for a speed and return weapon. Quick clarification, because I can already hear the typing. He's a Seahawk right now. This is being floated as a potential destination if the market opens up. The name is Rashid Shaheed. Why him? Because he's not just another wideout. He's the kind of piece that changes the geometry of a defense. PFF's whole point is that McDaniel's system thrives on speed. Think about what that looked like in Miami. And Shaheed has been among the top wide receivers in average max speed on routes over the last 4 seasons. In plain English, he's fast in real football situations, not just on paper, and defenses have to respect it. And if you look at the Chargers' current pass catcher core, Lad McConkey, Trey Harris, Quentin Johnston, Oronde Gadsden II, you can see the foundation. There's real talent there. But adding a true accelerant matters in this system, because Shaheed gives you 2 things at once: a vertical threat that stretches the field, and a returner who can flip special teams in one touch. His return resume isn't subtle either. Pro Bowl returner in 2025, a 100-yard kickoff return touchdown in Week 14, and a 58-yard punt return touchdown in Week 15. That's points that don't require your offense to do anything. That's momentum. That's the kind of swing that can change a playoff script before the other sideline even settles in. Now, yes, his offensive production with Seattle was modest. 15 catches, 188 yards, a few carries. But context matters. He was dropped into a role midstream. And across the larger body of work, he's shown he can produce as a receiver. Over 2,000 career receiving yards and 12 touchdowns from his earlier years. In McDaniel's world, he doesn't have to be a stat monster to matter. His job is to stretch the field so everyone else can breathe. The question is whether Seattle prioritizes bringing him back, especially after he helped their run. But the Chargers can sell cap space, a creative offense, and a franchise quarterback. That's a pretty strong pitch. So what's your move? Do you chase that speed and let McDaniel cook? Or do you say, we're fast enough? And pour everything into the trenches? Because the next part of this day is exactly that. And it involves 2 names on the interior who might be living on borrowed time. You can feel it before the analytics even show up. When the pocket caves, when the run game hits a wall, when Herbert's internal clock starts speeding up. And that's never the plan. Not in any universe. If you want a McDaniel offense to function the way it's designed to, there's an entry fee. The offensive line has to be mobile, connected, and smart. It's not just about being big bodies. It's about getting to the right spot at the right time with the right angle. That's how a 2-yard run turns into 12. That's how a 3rd and long becomes a quick throw that moves the chains without drama. But 2025 didn't look like that. And yeah, Slater missed the whole season. Joe Alt went down mid-year. That hurts. It changes everything about what you can call. But even with those injuries, what the Chargers put on the field inside simply wasn't good enough. And when the interior is losing, the whole offense loses. Pressure comes straight up the middle. Routes don't have time. The red zone turns into a fistfight. And you start living off miracles. Now zoom in on the shift. Moving toward a more modern, explosive approach on offense means certain player types fit and certain player types don't. And that's where the microscope gets unforgiving. 2 veterans under contract for 2026 are being talked about as legit cut candidates because the performance was rough and the new system demands a different profile. Mekhi Becton and Bradley Bozeman. Becton was the big money addition last offseason. 2 years, $20 million with guarantees. The hope was stability, plain and simple. What showed up was pain. A PFF grade in the mid-30s, near the bottom among qualified guards, with pressure allowed stacking up and sacks attached to it. And if you're trying to build an offense on timing and rhythm, that's a kill switch. The financial part is what makes it real. Moving on isn't as expensive as people assume. The dead cap hit is manageable, and the cap savings is around $9.7 million. You pay a smaller penalty to remove a massive drag. That's the equation. Bozeman, even harsher. Center is the brain. Center sets protections, communicates, keeps the whole unit organized. His PFF grade sat below 50 and ranked at the bottom among eligible centers. And when that guy is struggling, the quarterback pays for it every snap. Cutting Bozeman opens about $5.875 million, again with a relatively small dead cap number. Put them together, and you're looking at roughly $15,575 million more to spend. And when you connect that back to the cap flexibility earlier, you start to see why this offseason feels like the Chargers might be holding the steering wheel. But it's not just accounting, it's culture. You move on from vets and the locker room feels it, no way around that. You're betting the replacements raise the standard fast. So honestly, do you cut both without blinking? Or do you keep one for stability and hope McDaniel can scheme around it? And before you lock your answer in, just know the next piece is defense, it's pass rush, and it can define what this team looks like in January. Sometimes the offseason truth isn't about do we have talent, it's about priority. Who gets paid, who gets replaced, who becomes the centerpiece. Because defense, at the end of the day, is simple. When the other team needs one drive in the fourth quarter, can you end it? Or do you end up watching? The offseason is barely underway, and you can already feel big change in the air. But buried inside all the noise is one decision that looks routine, until you stare at the edge room and realize it's a real puzzle. You've got a veteran whose price and timeline don't line up forever. You've got a young star trending up and getting more expensive by the week. You've got another veteran whose production is sliding toward that dreaded age cliff. And you've got a new defensive coordinator stepping in with fresh eyes, Chris O'Leary taking over after Jesse Minter moved on. Okay, quick pause. Because the main point here isn't who might leave, it's who can't be allowed to slip. Odaf Owe. He showed up and immediately brought juice, speed off the edge, pressure on third and long, energy that hits the whole locker room. And when you also have Tuli Tuipolo 2 stacking sacks at 23 years old, the dilemma gets real. Paying two high-end edge players isn't cheap, but letting one walk is how you create a hole that shows up exactly when you're trying to make a playoff push. Then there's Khalil Mack. He's a free agent coming up, and the ring chase factor is always real at that stage of a career. And Bud Dupree, under contract but looking like a likely cut, posted a 5.3% pass rush win rate that ranked near the bottom among edge guys with meaningful snaps. That's not what you pay for. That's what you replace. So how do the Chargers keep the room stable while making tough decisions everywhere else? One answer: lock up the guy who's actually ascending. PFF's contract projection for Owe sits around 3 years, $57.9 million, about $19.3 million per year. And that's why people are calling it a bargain. That number would keep him just outside the top 15 highest paid edge defenders, around names like Greg Rousseau and George Karlaftis. If it stays in that neighborhood, it's value for a contender. So I'm putting it on you, Bolt fam. Do you extend Owe now and build a pass rush that can actually close games? Or do you play chicken with the market and risk paying more later? When you step back from all of it, today tells you one thing. The Chargers have options. Massive cap flexibility, possibly north of $120 million without cutting anybody. A speed weapon like Shaheed being floated as a fit for McDaniel's offense while also upgrading special teams. A real path to clean up the interior offensive line and give Herbert time to breathe. And on defense, a clear priority before the price climbs. Now tell me this, would you go all in on one headline star? Or would you build 4 upgrades and make this roster impossible to attack? Drop your answer in the comments, hit like if you're riding with LA, and subscribe. Because this offseason is not going to be quiet.